Hi everybody. First off, I want to say thank you so much for coming to this private book signing and learning a little more about me and about why I wrote this book. So let me start off by introducing myself more formally. So my name is Jessica. I'm a certified life coach and I have my Bachelor's of Science degree in psychology. I'm the owner and the operating life coach at Endless Possibilities Life Coaching Services. I have modified my coaching practice to include action coaching programs. So those programs are specifically designed to address targeted life areas where you may either be facing a challenge or your life might be pretty well balanced and moving along pretty easily, but you want that extra, you want that little bit more. So that's really the two areas that my practice caters to. Along with that, I also do some foundational business coaching, more to small and medium-sized businesses. And then on top of that, I also do a lot of these motivational and educational speaking events. And I know this one's tailored a little bit to the book that I've recently published and what it was that caused me to write this book. But I do love the opportunities to get together and do these live events. So thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate you guys attending this private event today. So with that introduction being said, let me kind of go into this. This is my newest publication. It is the 7-day Mental Fitness Bootcamp. And actually in this book, it's 7 challenges. It's not necessarily meant to do in a day, but there are 7 mental fitness, mental resiliency challenges and activities along. Some of them have coaching tips as well to help you be able to stay, 1, mentally focused, and 2, mentally resilient, especially in times of stress. So what I love so much about this book is that it has applicable steps. So I start off with giving you a little bit of coaching background, a little bit of the science behind why this mental strategy is something that I'm standing behind and use myself, and then give you the activity, the applicable thing that you can do to get out of your head and apply the strategy that is proposed. And some of the coaching challenge days have coaching tips. So it gives you that little extra bit if you find a stumbling block or that little piece that might help it click in and make it feel more personable for you. So I'm super excited. It's a pretty straightforward book. It has some note sections in the back, so I made it so it could be a notebook. But you know, the activities are about a couple pages long, 2 to 3 pages, and again, they're very applicable. So I wanted to take this opportunity to give you guys some background as to why I thought of writing this book. And although in my coaching practice, mental resiliency is absolutely a piece of what we bring into the action coaching program and the sessions with clients working with me, both in business and on a private individual setting, this one's much more personal for me. So I had a long COVID. I'm one of those long COVID people who caught COVID back in the August of 2021, I believe it was. And for 2 years, I've really been struggling to navigate the detriment that it has had on my health. And during the course of that, still trying to keep up with life as it is, because all of my tests, my MRI on my brain, my blood work, everything came back fine, actually better than fine. It was optimal. And when I got COVID, I was 41 years old and I was actually in the best health of my life. I was physically fit, I was stronger than ever, I was able to juggle and navigate life tasks with more speed and more efficiency than I had ever had before. I was a part of a number of my community organizations and local groups, and really a leader in many of those, holding board positions and chair positions and things like that. Then when I caught COVID, for me, it was predominantly in my head. I didn't have body aches, I didn't have any respiratory issues, anything like that. It wasn't anything exceptional. I handled the actual sickness for a week at home and went back to business as normal. I mean, I gave a week after, more for my clients and, my space to get a little bit recouped. But it was not very long after I really went back into the thick of things that I knew something was seriously wrong. The first sign was when I went to walk down steps. I had large staircases in my office building, and I was actually getting ready to go over and do a presentation, a business speech for a local organization. And I'm pretty much one of those that dresses in dresses, heels, I can do the steps with my arms full of things, and it's never been an issue for me before. And I went to walk down the stairway, and the second step, I stopped, and my body, my brain was like, we don't know how to do this. And I was like, what do you mean we don't know how to do this? We're just stepping down the stairs. And to get down the 2 flights of stairs, I actually had to walk myself through. You put your foot down, you get it all the way down on that step, you pick your other foot up and step it to the next one. Get that all the way down, pick your other foot up, and that's how I got down the staircase. And it was terrifying, but I had a presentation to do, so I kind of, brushed it under the rug and thought that was strange. And that lasted for about a week, and then I continued to have a number of different neurological and cognitive impairments, really, over the course of, that was August, and they kind of came and went. They would shift up until about February of that following year. And then at that time, my daughter, thankfully, she was absolutely okay, but she was involved in a very, very serious accident. And I don't know if that was the breaking point for everything, but at that point, I think the stress of that, from that February on, it was like every symptom that I had was back in there fully, constantly. I didn't get a break from it. It would ebb and flow in intensity, but there was really no pattern to what was flaring up, when it was flaring up, why it was flaring up, especially for me in the beginning. So that's when I decided to go and actually talk to doctors. My health, my cognitive, and especially neurological functioning was really deteriorating, and it was starting to impact my ability to show up for myself in life, both, just in general. And so there's a lot of detail to this, and one day I may write a story about that. But thankfully, I'm on the upswing. We have actually, I found a doctor who was willing to listen to me about what I felt like was happening with my body, and we have been able to distinguish and prove that basically my nervous system was fried. I had paralysis of nerves. I've been able to regain a lot of my cognitive function, but the communication between my brain and my body through the nerves and through the nervous system has still been greatly impaired. So I'm working with a phenomenal doctor. Actually, it's Dr. Casey at Impulse Chiropractic and Rehab. And yes, she's a chiropractor. We're not doing adjustments, but she has been able to take me back and help me rehabilitate my nervous system. And she has, and then this was before I wrote the book. I had written the book, and then shortly after I found her, and we started working together. But she has been able to help me regain nerve functions, a tremendous quality of life, and the ability to really have me back again. So anyhow, I'm sure I'll shout praises about her more and more. But back to the idea of this book. So here I am for 2 years, somebody who's very passionate about my work, very much a person known within the community for being able to do things and get out and be involved with things and participate in community service events. I was actually part of an organization for 3 years that is what we did, and part of the chamber and all sorts of things. Not to mention how interactively connected I am with my clients as far as trying to be accommodating, making sure that they're getting the best service of me possible, which, can pull on a lot of extra reserves that you have at times. So what I found is not only in the course of trying to keep up with everything, but also within the inner things that were happening within me. I mean, my neurological system and my cognitive functioning breaking down really distanced me from anything I had known about myself before. And it took a tremendous amount of my tools and skill sets that I have as a coach to be able to make it through without having an absolutely equally detrimental effect to my human condition, meaning my social and emotional and mental capacities. So this book is really, it's a hallmark of some of the mental frameworks that helped me get through what are the most difficult times of my life, and experiences that I never thought I would have, and experiences that I would never wish on anybody. And the idea behind this is it's the resiliency. So one of the things that I know as a coach, and based on some classes that I've taken at Johns Hopkins University, is our greatest resiliency against stress is our own social and emotional fortitude. And one of the challenges that I was facing was outwardly, I looked fine. Medically testing, until we actually directed it at my vagus nerve and the nervous system, everything was fine. My brain was actually more youthful than my age. My blood work was better than it had been in my 20s and 30s. So one of the biggest difficulties was there was a disconnect between the social aspect of people being able to understand what was happening with me, and no fault. I mean, it's just kind of how it is and how it can be. And even the people closest to me, my husband, my daughter, they didn't see the full extent until I started getting the treatment that was actually helping repair a lot of that. And then they were like, oh, there was a lot more going on. So for me, a big part of what helped me be resilient was my mental fortitude, my mental strengthening, because there were so many times during this experience where, just a byproduct of it, I was alone. I was independently moving and navigating with this by myself. And without the mental strength and the mental tools to go back and say, no, we're gonna have this is a choice, not a challenge. That can-do list was huge for me, especially when it was really difficult and I was really struggling physically. So there are so many aspects to this book that are really lifelines that helped me maintain all of the hard work and integrity of everything I had built in my life. My marriage that I've had for 27 years or so. My daughter, who is now 19, trying to raise a teenager through these times and those challenges was difficult. And then my business that I absolutely love and have a deep-hearted connection to. So I thought it would be of value to share how monumental the impact of what is written in this book has been to me, and why I felt like, okay, this has been useful for me. And one of my philosophies is a lot of my personal development and growth, a lot of my study into the human condition and understanding the psychology behind it is to help people equip themselves with the tools, because we can't avoid life challenges. We can't predict what we're going to face in the future. But the bigger and more sturdy our toolkit is, the more likely we are going to be able to succeed. And had I not had the mental fortitude and the mental resiliency, I don't know that I would have been able to advocate for myself and get myself to the point to continue to seek out somebody who could help me. And so, those are my personal praises. Obviously, this is my book, I wrote it, so I already have a deep attachment to it, but truly, truly, this is, I wish I'd had this in the beginning. These were tools that I developed and really honed in unique to myself as I moved through this, and I have tested and tried out how effective they can be when you do build a relationship with them. So, I'll be happy to take questions at the end of this, and I will be sticking around after the signing for anybody to come up and ask me questions about my book. I don't mind sharing some of the aspects of my experience, I know there's a lot of people that maybe don't have the effects from COVID, but have some sort of neurological or something going on that they just can't quite put their finger on. So I'm happy to, answer what I can about that, and any questions that you have about my practice, my action coaching programs, I would be happy to do that as well. So thank you guys so much, and we'll wrap this up and move on to the next part.